Aloha everyone, welcome to MTG 808 Junior. You got Mike here bringing you a tournament recap. It's been a while since we've done a tournament recap, but we certainly hope everyone's doing well with the pandemic and all. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we're letting you know that, hey, we're still around. We didn't forget our youth scene. So, yeah. With our tournament, we had 9 players. And to round out our 9 players, we have our top 4 with Rafael, one of our newest players here, playing Golgari Elves. We have Hunter running Silver Quill Aces. We have Joy Paul, JP, not a stranger to the scene, running Gruul Werewolves or Wolves. And we have our winner. We have Isaiah running Demir Zombies. And big shout outs to our other players that came down. Thank you so much to Westside Comics and Games for hosting us. For future tournaments, for those who are interested in for youth players that are interested in participating, we ask that you call in to the stores to sign up and make sure you follow all store rules. Okay. So before we get into the deck tech, if you like what we're doing here and would like to support our youth scene, we have our Patreon page. Just a little bit goes a long way, especially with our youth scene. Even $1 could help us out. We also have our YouTube channel, which we'll bring up our tournament recaps along with gameplay videos and deck techs. And lastly, we have our WordPress page, so that we also want to make sure we communicate with you what's going on, along with our Instagram. All right, so that getting out of the way, let's go into our deck tech. So we're going to start off with Hunter's Silver Quill Aces. So what this deck is trying to do, so it's Silver Quill is actually one of the new code names for the black-white color. Before that, it was known as Orzhov. It's still known as Orzhov, but in one of the new sets, Strixhaven School of Mages, the black-white color is named Orzhov, so it represents one of the houses. So think of Silver Quill as like one of the Harry Potter themed, I guess. So we have one of their payoff creatures is Clever Lumimancer. One of the new mechanics is Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, Clever Lumimancer gets +2/+2 until end of turn. And then we have spells. One mana spells to help kind of increase the power of Clever Lumimancer, so when it attacks, it comes in at greater power. So we have Guiding Voice to put a +1/+1 counter. We have Homestead Courage, also puts a +1/+1 counter with Flashback. This is from the recent set that came out, Innistrad Midnight Hunt. One of the mechanics is Flashback. What Flashback does is when this particular spell is in the graveyard, you can pay its Flashback cost to cast it from your graveyard. Wings of the Cosmos, pump spells, +1/+3 against flying. So you got some evasion to help increase the power of Clever Lumimancer. Malakir Rebirth from Zendikar Rising. Choose a target creature, you lose 2 life until end of turn. That creature gains when this creature dies. Return to the battlefield under its owner's control. So if someone were to use some sort of destroy spell to destroy Clever Lumimancer, you can, or one of his other creatures, it brings it back into the battlefield. Also, one of the mechanics from Zendikar Rising is, we call it modal dual face cards. So it's either on one side you can either play it as a spell, or on the flip side you can play it as a land. It's one of the new things in standard, especially what started with the Zendikar Rising. You'll see some of this as we move forward. So if you're short on mana, you can actually play Malakir Mire as a land for a turn, and it'll enter untapped. So it kind of gives you options. We have Professor's Warning. Choose one, put a +1/+1 counter on creature, and target creature gains indestructible until end of turn. So a lot of these, so Professor's Warning, Guiding Voice, and Homesick Courage helps to keep the, put counters on Clever Lumimancer alongside, keep the power up. Yeah. We have Clarion Spirit, one of the new cards from Kaldheim. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, you create a 1/1 white spirit token with flying. So because a lot of hunter spells are one mana spells, whenever you cast 2 of them, you actually create a spirit token. So it helps to generate value. Kabira Takedown is another modal dual face card. So it deals damage equal to the number of creatures you control to target creature planeswalker, or it enters in as a land. Professor Symbology, when it enters the battlefield, learn is one of the another mechanic from Strixhaven. So Strixhaven, you got Magecraft, now we got learn what it does. It does one of two things. As you see on the screen, you can reveal a lesson card from outside the game, which in this case is your sideboard, or you can discard a card to draw a card. So depending on the sideboard, there are cards that you can cast, so lessened, such as environmental sciences. So it creates utility, allows you to pull things out from your sideboard to help you with your strategy. So if environmental sciences, you can search for a land, you gain 2 life. Lesson here, another lesson: Necrotic Fumes. Sacrifice exile a creature you control to exile a target creature or planeswalker. Inkling Summoning is another lesson. Create a 2/1 black and white Inkling creature with flying. Expanded Anatomy. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature, gains vigilance until end of turn. So you have Hunter has 2 copies of it. Okay, going back into the main deck, Sejiri Shelter. Target creature you control gains protection from a color of your choice until end of turn, or it comes in. You can bring it in as a land source. Show Confidence. Instant, whenever you cast this spell, copy for each other instant or sorcery spell you cast this turn. You may choose new targets. So you put a +1/+1 counter on creature and it gains vigilance. So what this does is, if you cast like a whole bunch of your 1 mana instant or sorceries and you cast Show Confidence, it doubles. So like, let's just say you cast 4 1 mana spells, instant or sorceries. It will add 4 +1/+1 counters on a creature, on target creature. So if you want, you can add it onto like one of the spirit tokens. You can add on to Clever Lumimancer. You can add it onto Professor Symbology. And we have Killian Ink Duelist. Lifelink Menace. Spells you cast that target a creature cost 2 less to cast. Okay, so it basically makes all your other spells cheaper, like Show Confidence, Sejiri Shelter, Kabira Takedown. We have Kyle's Onslaught. Target creature gets +1/+1 and double strike until end of turn. Very cool. If you want to, so for instance, if you cast it on Clever Lumimancer, it'll get a +2/+2 off of the Magecraft, and because it'll get +1, it'll get an additional 3 power, making it deal 6 damage. Double strike. So how double strike damage first is it'll deal damage, double strike damage first, then normal damage, because I could be wrong about how damage is ordered, but I'm pretty sure it's double strike damage, first strike damage, then regular damage. Then we have Reflected Golem, 3 mana artifact creature. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets Reflected Golem, you may pay 2. If you do, copy that spell and you may choose new targets, which is pretty cool, because when you have Killian, you make all your spells cost less. So then you have something out. You have Professor's Warning that targets Reflective Golem, and then you pay 2. You can copy and choose a new target. And we have Closing Statement, 5 mana for an instant. This costs 2 less to cast during your end step. So destroy a target creature or planeswalker you don't control. Put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature you control. And then we have Shepherd of the Cosmos, 4 mana. 4 colorless, 2 double white for 3/3 flying. When it enters the battlefield, return target permanent card would convert with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So mana value is a new term to use. Before that, we used the term converted mana cost. So the converted mana cost of Shepherd of the Cosmos is 6. But in this case, mana value, we changed the term to mana value too. So the mana value of Shepherd of the Cosmos is 6 mana. And Kaldheim is also another mechanic from Kaldheim. So on the screen, during your turn, you may pay 2 colorless to put this card exile the card face down, and then you can cast it later on for its foretell cost. Okay. And then we have 8 plains, 6 swamps, 4 Silverquill Campus. So this is a really great card, especially in Artisan. It's very powerful. It enters tap, but then later in the game you can pay 4 mana to scry. And then we have Snowlands. So Snowlands was something that started in Ice Age. Then I believe it was in Cold Snap. So it was from previous sets, but they brought it back. Nice new addition to standard Artisan. Excuse me. And going on to the sideboard, we talked about some of the lesson spells. Another one would be the non-lesson spells would be Go Blank. Target player discards 2 cards, then exile all cards. So very nice for graveyard hate. Copy of Firha, Judge of Valor, Flying Lifelink. Whenever you cast your second spell, look at the top 3 cards. Put 1 of them in your hand and the rest into your graveyard. And for the rest of the sideboard, we have another copy of Malakir Rebirth, Sajiri, Shelter, Power Word Kill, one of the a card from Dungeons and Dragons, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. We got destroy target non-angel, non-demon, non-devil, non-dragon creature. We have 3 copies of Humiliate. Black and a white. Choose target opponent reveals a hand. Choose a non-land card. That player discards a card. Put a +1/+1 counter on the target creature control. Excuse me. And you got another copy of Go Blank. Very solid deck. I probably would want to see less of the tap lands because you're looking at 8 tap sources, and because this deck wants to be fast, you probably don't want to put any of the tap sources in. So maybe I would keep the Silverquill Campus and go down on the Snowfield Sinkholes and add more plains and swamps. Silverquill Aces, congratulations Hunter. Now going on to our next deck, we have Golgari Elves by Rafael. He's one of our new players this year. He just recently started playing Magic. So he's playing Elves, Golgari Elves. And what this deck is, it's one of the creature themed decks. So basically you want to this deck wants to smother the field with creatures, and essentially you want to it's a mid-rangey deck, a grindy deck. Actually the Drew family was not supposed to be there. He did put Elder Fang. So, sorry about that. Quick change. Okay, so he had 2 copies. Oh, he had 4 creature wise. He has 4 copies of Jasper Sentinel. Reach, tap, and you tap on an untapped creature. You add 1 mana of any color. Very good for mana ramping. 4 copies of Sculptor of Winter. Untap target Snowland. 4 copies of Infernal Grasp. Another new card from Innistrad, Midnight Hunt. Very good piece of removal. Destroy target creature, you lose 2 life. And Elder Fang Disciple. When it enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card. Blizzard Brawl. Choose target creature you control and target creature you don't control. If you control 3 or more snow permanents, that creature you control gets +1/+0 and gains indestructible until a turn. Those creatures fight each other. So looking at the mana base, because the mana base has all snow covered, well, most of them has snow covered involved, they're considered snow permanents. So it helps you turn on Blizzard Brawl. Alright, we have Boreal Outrider, 2 colorless, 1 green for a snow creature elf. Whenever you cast a creature spell, if snow, so that symbol represents snow, of any of that spell's colors was spent, that creature enters the battlefield with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. And because we have a whole bunch of snow permanents in the form of its land base, mana base, each creature that comes in after Boreal Outrider will come in with an additional +1/+1 counter. So not only is Rafael trying to go wide, but he's also trying to go big. He has Harold, King of Skemfar, legendary creature elf, menace. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal an elf, warrior, or Tyvar card from among them, put them to your hand. You put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So the Tyvar card doesn't that part is irrelevant, just because we care about either the elf or the warrior. More likely the elf, because this is an all elf deck. 3/2 menace, potentially a 4/3 if it comes in after a Boreal Outrider. We have 4 copies of Skemfar Shadow Sage. It's another elf. When it enters the battlefield, you choose 1. Each opponent loses X life, where X is the greatest number of creatures you control that share a creature type in common. Or you gain X life, where X is the greatest number of creatures you control that have a creature type in common. So since essentially all the creatures are elves, let's just say if Rafael has 3 elves in play, including itself, each opponent will lose 4 life, or he can gain 4 life. Binding of the Old Gods, 2 colorless, 1 black. So it's an enchantment. 2 colorless, 1 black, 1 green for Saga. So Sagas are also back. Sagas in Theros, it was in Dominaria. Now it's back in Kaldheim. So the first chapter, or lore counter, destroy target non-land permanent and opponent control. So the first part is like 4 mana, destroy anything that's not a land. Level 2, search your library for a forest card and put into the battlefield. Tap and shuffle. So what level 2 does, it can search for either forest or woodland chasm, because its land type is considered a forest as well. And level 3, all creatures you control gain death touch until end of turn. We had 2 copies of Thornmantle Striker, 5 mana for elf. When it enters the battlefield, choose 1. Remove X counters from target permanent, where X is the number of creatures you control, or target creature an opponent control gets -X, where X is the number of elves you control. So, I've seen Rafael used more the -X part because it's more removal. And then we have Thwart the Grave. 3 copies of Thwart the Grave. 4 colorless, 2 black for sorcery. The spells cost 1 less for each creature in your party. So as it says on the screen, party consists of a cleric, rogue, warrior, and wizard. So if you control a cleric, rogue, or warrior, it'll cost 3 less to cast. 3 colorless less to cast. And what this card does is return a creature card and up to 1 target cleric, rogue, warrior, or wizard from a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So maybe he wants to bring back Harold. So Harold comes back and a creature of his party would be Thornmantle Striker. I did see Rafael choose to bring back Skemfar Shadow Stage to cause the life loss to his opponent to close out the game. His sideboard, right now he has 10 cards in his sideboard, 3 copies of the rest to handle the control matches, 3 copies of nature, return to nature to deal graveyard strategies or to destroy target artifacts or enchantments. And Drider is a reach creature. When he does combat damage, create a 2/1 black spider creature token with menace and reach. So this is actually, I don't know, I think this probably will do good in the main board, because if this creature is attacking, it just creates more tokens and you just overwhelm them with creatures. So great job to Rafael making top 4 in this tournament. Excuse me. Next we have JP running green, red, or Gruul Wolves. JP's been around for quite a while. He was second place at our last youth scholarship tournament, and here we have wolves, one of the major creature types in Innistrad Midnight Hunt. So it introduces a mechanic called day and night also. So daybound and nightbound. How that works is excuse me. Daybound is when a creature enters the battlefield, if none of the daybound nightbound cards are out, it comes in as a day. And if a player does not cast any spells on their turn, it turns to night. And when it turns to night, the card you turn the card into it turns into the other side, Lord of the Ulvenwald. So it's a very unique mechanic that is very new to Innistrad. Prior to that, in the previous Innistrad cycle, there was a transform mechanic. So like if you meet a certain requirement, it will transform. This, however, introduces day and night. So again, the daybound is if a creature, it turns night if a player does not cast any spells on their turn. So once it turns to nighttime, if a player plays 2 spells on their turn, it turns back into day. If that it's a boggle to kind of remember, but just remember when it comes in as day, and then if you cast no spells, it turns to night, but but a player must cast 2 spells in order to turn it back to day. And what's cool about it is that if it's nighttime and you cast a spell, let's just say you cast Outland Liberator. If it's nighttime, it comes in as Frenzy Trap Breaker. So it comes in as whatever time of the day it is. So going into his deck, his main deck, he has 4 copies of Snarling Wolf. This reminds me of Basking Rootwalla, I think. It was one of the cards he was known for playing back when we were playing Standard Pauper. 1 mana for a 1/1 Wolf. It gets +2 on a turn. Activate only once each turn. Play a Fire. Very good removal spell. It's a new shock, essentially. 1 red for an instant. It deals 2 damage to any target. And if a player was dealt damage this way, you scry 1. So if you deal 2 damage to the player, you can set up your next draw. In the 2-drop slot, we have 3 copies of Royal Eruption. It deals 3 damage to any target, but if you pay its kicker cost, it deals 5 damage instead. Stolen Vitality. It's 1 colorless, 1 red for an instant. It deals 3 damage. It gets target creature gets +3/+1 until end of turn. If it's your turn, that creature gains trample until end of turn. Otherwise, it gains first strike until end of turn. So basically, how JP plays this deck is he plays it pretty aggressively. So like he'll attack before, if a creature blocks before damage, he'll Stolen Vitality to give it trample. Or if you're using as a defense, he'll block with a creature, give it +3/+1, but it'll have first strike. Bramble Armor. When it enters artifact, 2 mana. When it enters the battlefield, attach it to a target creature you control. That creature gets +2/+1, and it has equipped 4. So later in the game, if he wants to equip another creature, it does give him something to do with his mana for one of his creatures. We talked about Outland Liberator. It's a human werewolf. It's 2/2 on the front side. Pay 1 sacrifice to destroy target artifact or enchantment. Or on the flip side, same thing. Sacrifice Frenzied Trapbreaker, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Whenever Frenzied Trapbreaker attacks, destroy target artifact or enchantment defending player controls. And then we have Kessig Naturalist. It's 1 green, 1 red for a 2/2 human werewolf. When it attacks, add green or red to your mana pool until end of turn. You don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. On the flip side, though, Lord of the Ovenwald. Other wolves and werewolves you control get +1/+1. Whenever Lord of Ovenwald attacks, add a green or red to your mana pool until end of turn. You don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. So that's the Nightbound. We do have Harvesttide Infiltrator or Harvesttide Assailant. 3/2 Daybond, it's a 3/2 Trampler. Nightbound, it's a 4/4 Trampler. Hound Tamer, human werewolf, 3 mana for a 3/3 Trample. 4 mana, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, and that's his Daybound. Its Nightbound form, Untamed Pup, Trample. Other wolves and werewolves you control have Trample, and 4 mana, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So not only could JP bring have a wide board, but all his wolves and werewolves will have Trample, and he can use that mana late in the game to put more counters on his wolves. Excuse me. Fangblade Brigand and Fangblade Eviscerator. The front side, Brigand, 2 mana, Fangblade Brigand gets +1/+0 and gains first strike until end of turn. But his Nightbound counterpart, Fangblade Eviscerator, gets +1/+0 and gains first strike until end of turn. And for 5 mana, creatures you control get +2/+0 until end of turn. So if he's swinging out with all his werewolves and wolves, like if you have the Lord of the Ovenwald his wolves get +1/+1, and if you have the Untamed Pup, his werewolves will have trample, and then imagine him just adding more power to the board. So, and it's a 4/5 creature. Then we have Village Watch, 5 mana for a haste, Daybound 4/3, or the Village Reavers. Werewolves and wolves you control have haste. Nightbound is a 5/4 creature. So very unique deck here from JP, and he's also running snow-covered lands. So we have snow-covered mountains, snow-covered forest, and highland forest. Very interesting, and his sideboard consists of 3 copies of Snakeskin Veil, 1, 2, 3, to protect his creatures from removal, especially against a control matchup. Return to nature to deal with artifacts or enchantments, although he still has the Frenzy Trap Breaker to handle that. This he also has Weathered Runestone to deal with graveyard strategies. It is a little repetitive with Return to Nature, but I think with some of the new mechanics in Innistrad, there's some graveyard strategies. So I guess JP decided to let's kind of go in on anti-graveyard strategies. Frostbite, it deals 2 damage to target creature or planeswalker. If you control 3 or more snow permanents, it deals 3 damage instead. So it's very similar to Blizzard Brawl, but but in this case it just deals damage to a creature. Let's see. Oh, excuse me. 2 copies of Burning Hands from Dungeons and Dragons. It deals 2 damage to target creature planeswalker. If that permanent is green, it deals 6 damage instead. So it's a very nice sideboard piece against green creatures, especially against Rafael. Rafael's running green creatures in his elf deck. And then we have 2 copies of Cinderclasm to deal with some of the aggressive decks. So very good deck from Joypaw. Hope to see more of him playing this deck. It does take some time to get used to the day and night mechanic, but yeah. Lastly, we have our winner, Isaiah, running Dimir Zombie. Believe it or not, Isaiah was undefeated the whole time, and he did also beat me in the end boss match, and I will share that deck tech with you very soon. So what this deck is essentially another creature themed deck. It's 3 out of the 4 decks seem to have creature themes. So Rafael had elves, JP had werewolves, Isaiah's running zombies. So essentially the same strategy as Rafael and JP, bringing a whole bunch of creatures and you just swing. However, it has anthem effects. So we have cards like Blade Stitch Scab. Other zombies you control get +1/+0. It has Death Priest of Miracle. Skeletons, vampires, and zombies control get +1/+1. So this is a very cool piece in because it's an anthem effect for your zombies. At the beginning of your end step, if a creature you control died this turn, you may pay 1. If you do, you create a 1/1 skeleton token. And we have Narfi, Betrayer King from Kaldheim. It's a snow creature, but other snow and zombie creatures you control get +1/+1. Or if you play a triple snow mana, you return Narfi from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So this is a very nice recursion, especially against the control decks or against removal in general. And we have 3 creatures that essentially just helps increase the power of your creatures on board because they're all zombies. So we have Dungeon Crawler, 1 mana for a 2/1, enters tapped. When I recomplete a dungeon, you may return Dungeon Crawler from your graveyard to your hand. The dungeon part is really irrelevant. We just care about the 2/1 zombie creature. Shambling Ghast. When it Shambling Ghast dies, you choose one. It's either Brave the Stench, target creature an opponent control gets +1/+1 until end of turn, or you search the body, create a treasure token. So either it removes another creature, or it creates mana so you can cast your next. So like if this creature dies on your turn 1, you turn 2 you play a land, and because you have the treasure, you can ramp into your Falcon Abomination. I'll get to that in a moment. The 2-mana zombies, we have Ghastly Gloom Hunter, 1/1 flying lifelink, kicker of 4 mana. If it was kicked, it enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. So early in the game, it's a 1/1 flying lifelink. Especially, it's very good against all the burn decks running around. Late game, it turns to a 3/3 lifelinker. We have Infernal Grass, another deck running Infernal Grass. Very good piece of removal. Sorry, we didn't talk about Bloodchief's Thirst. Bloodchief's Thirst is sorcery. It deals destroy target creature with mana value 2 or less, but if it was kicked, you destroy target creature or planeswalker, excuse me. So early in the game, it destroys any early creatures, but late in the game, it destroys anything. And then we have Raise the Draugr. Instant, choose one, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, or return 2 target creature cards that share creature type from your graveyard to your hand. So this is very good, especially against removal, because we're looking at Artisan as more creature based. So like when your creature dies to removal, you cast this at the end step. You bring 2 of your creatures back. You wouldn't want to bring back Narfi, because you just paid 3 mana to bring it back. But essentially you want to bring stuff back like your Blade Stitch Scab, and Falcon Abomination. Very, very nice piece. 2 colorless, 1 blue for a 2/2 zombie bird. When it enters the battlefield, you create a 2/2 black zombie token with creature token with Decay. So this Decayed is another mechanic from Innistrad Midnight Hunt. So this creature cannot attack, but when it attacks, you sacrifice it at the end of combat. So I'll talk about like a good strategy in a moment. You have copies of Flip the Switch. Flip the Switch, counter target spell unless its controller pays 4. Then you create a 2/2 black zombie creature token with Decayed. So what I noticed when Isaiah was playing this, he wouldn't attack with the Decay token, but once he builds in a big enough board state, like he'll play either a Death Priest or a Blade Stitch Scab or a Narfi. He'll just make the board really big and just go wide and just attack with everything. Well, he'll just Alpha Strike. And if he has maybe 2 of this, it's an additional 2 power for his whole field, especially with the Decay tokens. So like those zombies become 4/4 creatures. So and he does so very, very great strategy from Isaiah. He's running 9 copies of Snow-Covered Islands, 10 copies of Snow-Covered Swamp, 3 copies of Ice Tunnel. His sideboard consists of 2 more copies of Bloodchief's Thirst. Excuse me. We have 3 copies of Duress to deal with the control matchup, Rotten Reunion to deal with the graveyard strategies, especially it creates the 2/2 zombie creature tokens with Decay. Avalanche Caller, what he can do with his mana is his snow land will become a 4/4 elemental creature, and with Narfi, it gets an extra +1/+1 creature. 3 copies of Negate, another copy of Raise the Draugr, and another copy of Narfi. So congratulations for Isaiah for winning the tournament. Went undefeated essentially, and which brings us to the Emboss deck. So the Emboss deck I am running, is it Dragons? Well, wasn't really, is it Dragons? So it's actually, is it Control? So you utilizing some of the new cards. So we have copies of Fading Hope. Return target creature to its owner's hand. If it's mana value 3 or less, scry 1. So like early in the game, I can bounce a creature but set up my draw. 3 copies of Jawar Disruption. Counter target spell lets you pay 1. So very good in the early game. Or if I'm in need of mana, I can use it as a land card. Cinderclasm, it's just a board wipe. 1 color, it's 1 red, 1 damage to each creature. But if I pay this kicker cost, it deals 3 damage instead. Dragonfire, as additional cost, you may reveal a dragon card from your hand or choose a dragon you control. It deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker. But if I reveal or choose a dragon, it deals damage equal to that dragon's power to that target creature instead. So my dragon creatures are Purifying Dragon. When it attacks, it deals 1 damage to target creature, or if it's a zombie, it deals 2 damage. And Red Dragon, 6 mana for a 4/4 with Fire Breath. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 4 damage to each opponent. So essentially, this either does 3 damage or it does 4 damage. Thundering Rebuke, it's a sorcery spell. It deals 4 damage to target creature, planeswalker. Excuse me. And we have Expressive Iteration. This is such a powerful card, especially in Standard Artisan, and it's being used in other formats as well. So as a sorcery, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You put 1 of them in your hand, 1 on the bottom of your library, and you exile 1 of them, and you may play the exiled card this turn. So basically, it lets you look at 3 cards from the top of your library. 1 goes in your hand, 1 goes to graveyard, and maybe you want to exile like a land card, so you can play that land as your land for turn. In the 3 mana slot, we have Divide by 0. 2 colorless, 1 blue for an instant. Return target creature spell. Return target spell or permanent with mana value 1 or greater to its owner's hand. And it has the Learn ability. So then I can search for one of my Learn cards, which would be Environmental Sciences or Elemental Summoning. Saw It Coming is our 3 mana spell or 3 mana counter spell. 3 mana counter spell, counter target spell with Foretell. Or we have Dissipate. Same casting cost, counter target spell. If the spell's countered this way, you exile it instead of putting it to his owner's library. I chose to split this because if there's something I could do with my mana early game, I could just cast it as a Foretell and for its Foretell cost. Behold the Multiverse, 4 mana for an instant, scry 2, then draw 2, and it also has the Foretell mechanic. And a returning card, Devious Cover Up. Counter target spell. If that spell's countered this way, exile it instead of putting it to his owner's graveyard, and then you may shuffle up to 4 target cards from your graveyard into your library. So essentially what this does, it's you counter a spell and you get to refill your deck with value cards. So like if you need another copy of Behold the Multiverse, or you need to Expressive Iteration or some removal spells, with Devious cover, you can shuffle those back into your deck. And we talked about our creatures, our dragons. In terms of the mana base, we're running some islands, mountains. We are running Prismari Campus. It's very good because then in a control deck, you want to make sure you keep gas going. Meaning that you have more interactive spells. So with Prismari Campus, it allows you to do that. It is running Certain Frostspire. Enters the battlefield tapped. It does add red or late in the game, or it deals 2 damage to each creature, and it can only activate as a sorcery. So this is an additional board wipe along with Cinderclasm. And then we have copies of Volatile Ford. It's one of the dual snowlands from Kaldheim. In terms of sideboard pieces, we have 2 copies of Disdainful Stroke, a copy of Environmental Science I can get with Divide by Zero, 2 copies of Weathered Runestone for Graveyard Strategies, another learned spell in the form of Elemental Summonings. We have Into the Worlds for bounce effects, Negate to counter non-creature spells. I am debating me putting 1 in the main and 1 in the side. I'm not sure yet. We do have copies of Burning Hands to for the anti-green matchup. Another copy of Cinderclasm, which is more likely to be removed just because I have Frostpire and 2 more copies. And we have another copy of Devious Cover Up. And that is the end boss deck. So overall, very I'm just excited to see the kids come out and play. We do have another tournament coming up on October 23 at Aurora's Collectibles. It's in Waipahu. So yeah, my thoughts right now with what's going on. It's a new metagame, very creature-based metagame, and this is with just the recent rotation. Also, we did lose out on Theros Beyond Death, Ikoria, Lair of Behemoths, Throne of Eldraine, Corset 21. So, am I missing anything? I think we lost out on 4 sets. So, a lot of new cards coming in. I'm excited to see what decks kids are bringing in, and I hope to, see more youth come out and to come and play. Thank you very much again for listening in. A lot of new things here. Support. If you can, support the channel, support the Patreon. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, and yeah, thank you so much for jumping in. And we'll catch you on the next video. Peace.